Welcome to Nonprofit Nation, the series that highlights the meaningful work nonprofits are doing to strengthen our community. In each episode, we speak with leaders, volunteers, and advocates addressing real-world changes and creating impactful solutions. Join us as we explore their stories, the obstacles they face, and the measurable change they bring to people and causes they serve. All right, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Nonprofit Nation. I am your host, Amanda Pierce, and I am excited to welcome our guest today. I'm joined by Josiah Vega, and he is the Community Development Manager for Impact 46. And Impact 46 is a really cool nonprofit organization, and they are located in
Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Georgia. Yep. Why don't you give us an idea of what you guys do?
Yeah. So the 46, that is the zip code we work in. So 30046, and we exist to impact Lawrenceville. We're ultimately a collective impact nonprofit that really works within the city of Lawrenceville and without to bring together the city to collectively impact the place we call home and the place we love and the people that live there. And it's very much established around collaboration, and that's resulted in working with high school students on workforce development. So basically just getting them jobs, getting them ready to go. Leadership, civics, education. So we work very closely with the city of Lawrenceville. And on the other side of things, we work on housing issues. So we do everything from providing utilities assistance in tandem with the city of Lawrenceville, as well as eviction prevention. And we've also done temporary housing. So that's helping people who are homeless, be it on the street or even in an extended stay hotel or living out of their car, helping them get housing for a period of time. That's currently on pause. We do a lot of what we do is grant funded. So it just depends on what funding is there. All these services tend to be fairly expensive. But with that, we provide case management. And so particularly with eviction prevention and temporary housing when we offer it, because we want these people to get back on their feet, whatever that looks like. So right. It could be as simple as, which this isn't a simple thing, but just putting it plainly, I lost my job and therefore I can't pay for rent at this point in time. Pretty cut and dry, right? And normally it's not that way. There's a lot more going on typically from what I understand. But we help them, okay, let's help you find a job. Let's walk you through, give you case management for 90 days. And they walk with our team. And so it really starts with an application online. They come in, they qualify, and then they'll go through our program. And it's strictly for Lawrenceville again. So that's one thing with the grants. Utilities, there is a little more give, but all the details are on our website. So that's one thing. We always got to be clear. It's like, hey, this is, if you're looking to apply, got to look at our website, make sure you're good to go, and go from there. And it's really for people within Lawrenceville.
Looking at your website, Impact 46 is caring for the soul of the city.
Yeah.
And soul is, I just feel it when I read it. But describe to me what that means to you, Josiah. Not the organization, not the culture that, you breathe when you're there, but to you. What does caring for the soul of the city mean? You mentioned that your family is in the nonprofit world, your wife too. So I think that it probably has a deeper meaning to you.
Yeah, and it's funny, too. I had a hand in making that catchphrase. Yeah, so it was something that I worked on with our marketing. Well, he's a contractor, Jeff Semple. We were really trying to capture, okay, what is Impact 46? Because we talk about, we hear this also, we say we want Lawrenceville to be the healthiest city in Gwinnett. And for me, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to really phrase that, because then it could sound like, oh, well, we're working on health initiatives, like, oh, you do yoga, you do things like that. It's like 5Ks. Yeah, it's like, no, we don't do that. We're not against that by any means. Like, please, I love 5Ks. My wife does yoga. It's great. But we're a community impact nonprofit. And then when you say that, people are like, what the heck does that mean? And so it came down to, well, what do we do? And for me, it's like, well, who makes up a city? It's people that make up a city. You can put up a bunch of buildings, but no one lives there. It's an abandoned city. It's not a city. It's the people that call it home. And what are we doing? We're really trying to reach the people themselves. We don't want to just provide services. We don't want to just be there and say, hey, here's some money, go on your way. We want to be really working with and walking alongside them, be it through, unfortunately, a traumatic event that's led to potential eviction or struggling with utilities or even relocation. We've done some projects around that as well. I can talk more on that side of things. That's the Lawrenceville Response Center. Or with students, it's much more positive. Because you're like, hey, we're building up the future leaders, but it's going to take relationship. And that's where we really pride ourselves on those programs. It's not just a, hey, come and join. Great, you're in. Okay, awesome. Off on your own. And so thinking about all of that And again, like you mentioned, my wife works in the nonprofit sphere. I have as well. We've been volunteering. I actually met volunteering. And so it's really near and dear to us. And that's what's most important to me when it comes to when you're making impact. It's about the people that you're talking to. You're building friendship. You're really entering in. You're listening. And it's not a results-based approach. It's much more about how you're affecting the people. Obviously, we want to help people and get them in a better space. But sometimes, especially when it comes to, we talk homelessness, some people are just going to be homeless, and that's what they want to do. And that's hard to wrap your mind around. But that's something I also really appreciate about Impact 46 is we really try to think through different issues and go, okay, we have to recognize that there are some people that due to just either mental illness or simply choice, there's a lot of just choice, the ability to be free, that they value more than living at home. And so we want to make sure we keep that in mind.
Looking at your website, Impact 46 seeks to impact people and improve cities through collaborative partnerships. They help communities and cities connect to sectors, stakeholders, and to implement people-centered programs that nurture the heart of residents while improving the city. They focus on 3 key areas of impact: improvement, asset-based opportunity-driven initiatives, community and economic development, partnerships, and resident empowerment.
And so there's a lot of different partners we work with. Right now, we're in the middle of the Summer of Impact. So I'll give a shout out to that. It is a paid internship program where we work very closely with Central Gwinnett and Discovery High Schools. We work with the academy coaches in particular, so Lisa White and Ashley Stewart, and we work with them to get students connected to these paid internships. And that requires us working with local businesses, and that's part of my role. My role this year, it's in years past as well, is to connect with businesses, in particular new business partners, to get internships that these students will not only want to join, but love and be a part of, where they're really going to be setting them up for their careers. We don't want it to just be a summer job. We want them to actually explore where it's going. And so that looks like stepping in, having conversation around workforce development. I've had a couple different conversations with people. I'm in Leadership Gwinnett currently, and even just talking with some local hospital representatives and saying, okay, they're seeing a shortage in nursing. Okay, how do we have a conversation around that? There might not be a way for us to partner. Unfortunately, a lot of them, it's like, hey, we don't do paid internships, but there's still a conversation there around, okay, how do we even start filling the workforce and
leading them to that path?
Exactly. Looking towards high schoolers and not just college. We have great colleges here too. People don't, maybe it's making connection to GDC or to Gwinnett Tech and having those conversations, or even vice versa with the schools. So I'm getting a little off track there, but just those conversations. I think one recently that's been really cool is working with a local collision shop, Mundy's Collision, and having a conversation there. They may or may not join this year. I think they will, but it all started from just a quick little networking event. It was actually more of a fundraiser for another nonprofit, and they were kind enough to invite us, and just there to support them. They've been a really good partner, Path United, and really they do awesome work with students, particularly in places of great need. There's a trailer park in Lawrenceville that they work at. My friend Juan Terrazas heads that up. He's been there for years, and now he's more in the same role that I am with Path United, invited me to come, and just being able to connect there and meet great people. But it's led to a larger conversation with Mundy, and Jason Mundy is the owner, and working with him and just having this conversation around, okay, how do we start building that workforce, and learning about his story, how he entered in, how people at his office have come in and started working. And even recently when they came to one of our events, talking about women in really collision repair or in a mechanic's role. And that's something I think with our high school students is, again, they just don't know what they don't know. They're young. I was in that same spot. I know both of us were at one point. I did well in school, but at the same time, I had no idea it was out there. I'm like, I'll just go to school and figure it out. And I really wish I had more opportunities like what we're trying to do with Impact, especially at places where there's more need at Central and Discovery, and helping remove barriers, right, for students to start thinking about, wait, even if I'm a young woman, I should maybe look at a career in being a mechanic, because that's what Jason was like. You can totally do this. Absolutely. And we want these young women to start understanding, like, this isn't just a male field. You can absolutely come in here and do this and do really, really well. Yeah. Or vice versa. In that same conversation was like, well, you think about nurses. It's like, oh, that's a female role. It's like, no, there's a ton of male nurses, and it's just getting students to think, oh wait, yeah, I could do that. And people have done it before. And so it's really fun that even if that conversation doesn't lead necessarily to a partnership, which I think it will, it still is advancing that conversation, building partnerships that way.
I see so much value in reframing the language. You know, it's such a daunting question. As a high school graduate, the first thing people tend to ask is, what college are you going to? And that's not necessarily the immediate pathway for all. And being just instantly asked that. So I am a big proponent, especially in the technical field, like you were mentioning, in helping steer or educate the next generation of our workforce, that not everybody has to go and get their BA. It's okay to explore a technical opportunity. And in fact, you can gain a accreditation or a designation that you can use to begin, you know, earning a living in the meantime. I'm not saying adios to a formal degree, but there are so many other things, you know, that you can insert there. You yourself are very involved with the community. I love seeing your team online. You guys are very active on social media. You guys are Impact 46. How are you received in the community? Like, are you making a noticeable impact? And where could somebody, you know, see the impact that you have made?
So I know we are making a noticeable impact when I have people coming up and I'm like, man, you guys do so much. Like, how big is your team? And I go, well, at the time when I was last asked this question, I was like, we're a team of 7. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, it's just 7 people. And now we're up to 8. We just hired a new program coordinator for our Students 46 side of things. We have 2 staffers there. Lawrenceville Response Center's got 3 dedicated directly to it. Then we have our executive director, Jen Young, myself, and then Savannah Davis over our grants. And that's it. That's the whole team. We have a couple contractors, but overall, that's it. And we're making, when people are telling me that, I think people know splash, it's like we're making a splash and we're just doing a lot of work. And granted, we do a lot on social media. We do that to connect with, really to start was with youth, but we want to continue to build that and use that as a way to storytell and be a part of our community and just get the word out. So I think that's a big part of it.
You hit the nail on the head, telling the story. That's kind of what we're doing here. Talk about some of your initiatives. I know that you have some upcoming events and you have some things that you wanted to talk about as they gain legs. I'd love for you to share them with our listeners.
Yeah, so I already talked about the Summer of Impact. We've been doing that. This will be year 7. We've had almost 125 students come through and get paid internships. And that's been our flagship program for a long time. Very excited about it this year. We've got a goal of over 30 internships and really hoping that'll come through, and just seeing these students get placed in places that are potentially life-changing. You know, we've had kids who've gone on, continue to work, and one who's currently working at the city of Lawrenceville. And make sure I shout out the city of Lawrenceville. They're a huge partner in everything we do, and they hire interns every year and just been an awesome, awesome partner.
Shout out to my powerhouse sister, Jasmine Billings.
Yes, Jasmine's a great friend, was on our board a little while back and continues to work closely with us. And so it's an awesome city. It makes our work much more impactful too. Without the support of the city, it'd be a totally different ball game, and that makes a huge difference on that end. So just really excited about that.
Help me set it up for our listeners, as this is Nonprofit Nation. You know, we're speaking about Gwinnett and Lawrenceville as though people know where we are. So to those who aren't local,
it's the northeast of Atlanta. That's what I tell a lot of my friends. You know, I was born in LA, but
really?
When I say Los Angeles, like, oh yeah, well, it's a huge city. I was born in Montebello, but it's Los Angeles.
Right.
So same thing here. We say, inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter, that means nothing to my family in Texas. No, we're northeast of Atlanta. You drive about, an hour to get there. And so, we're heading towards Buford and all that, 316. So on your way to Athens, probably a good way to put it.
Let's bring it to scale. So for our listeners, Gwinnett County is almost the size of Atlanta. So we have almost 1 million residents in Gwinnett County. So break that down as far as the residents in Lawrenceville. How many people are in Lawrenceville about?
I think Lawrenceville proper is only about 30, I want to say. But we have a ton of people coming in and out.
That's a lot. 30,000 people is a lot.
Still a decent amount. And I'm in unincorporated Lawrenceville currently, so I don't think that counts where I'm at and others. So that's like the 4-3 zip code. But very much the center of government within Gwinnett County. So that's where the county government sits. And we have the Department of Health and Human Services for the state there, Gwinnett County Jail. So there's a lot going on. And the new Northside Hospital.
McCrae's Tavern.
Yeah.
That's my fave.
That's a good place.
Sit on the roof at McCrae's. Yeah. You mentioned the Response Center?
Yes.
What is that all about?
So the Lawrenceville Response Center has been in existence since 2020. It's the newer of our 2 programs. I wouldn't say it's an initiative in and of itself, but it started as a response, and it's in the name, to the housing issues that we were seeing coming out of 2020. And it's remained because, as we all know, it's continued to be an issue. And we're seeing more and more homeless people in Lawrenceville in particular. Rents are going up, costs just across the board. And so it came out of that need, and it's just remained. as I said. And so we're continuing to serve Lawrenceville, and it kind of stretches a little bit further in Lawrenceville with our utility services, as well as if we have students who go to specific schools. So like the Central Gwinnett cluster, Discovery cluster, and others within Lawrenceville where we can help serve their parents as well. But I think with the Response Center, what's particularly unique about, and it's, again, sort of that Impact 46 DNA, if you will, it's very focused on sort of high level, but still very people-focused impact, where we're trying to walk alongside, as I described earlier, help people get back on their feet. We're not just giving out money to anyone who comes. Like, you have to qualify. If you've already received funding, then you'll be, say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't serve you here, but we'll send you a list of resources. And our team's really good, and they really care a ton. And I think that's something I want to emphasize too, is these are people who worked in, our director, she came on in July, Katie Inks, she's got 20 plus years of experience, working in, direct service up in Northern California with people that are going to need housing help for years, for their entire lives. And we brought her on for our newest initiative, which is the First Housing Center. So really, really excited about that. She's going to be setting that up. And that is currently under construction, where we'll have plenty of updates coming out on social media and newsletter. They are repairing what was a apartment complex in Lawrenceville and refurbishing it. It's going to be 8 beds for single homeless men. It's going to be the first of its kind in Gwinnett County, specifically dedicated to homeless men, only homeless men. Very, very excited about it. It's going to be up to 89 days, just sort of 90 days of case management. So they come in and they qualify, and now they have a place themselves, able to get whatever services they need. And so I'm working closely with Katie and Savannah on just developing that and supporting Jen as well, both fundraising, but also making sure we've got partners there for employment, or, they need transportation, and we got to get some clothing for this guy or get food, that kind of thing. So we want to make sure it's all in place before we open the doors for it. And we're in partnership, again, with the city and the county here on this one as well. So really excited about that, really working closely with the Lawrenceville PD as well, and with Viewpoint Health, and just developing that. So Katie's walking through and really putting together what's going to be an excellent program, and very excited about how it's going to help support these men. Because it's not a shelter. That's one thing I'm always having to tell people in our community, which is totally fair. That's the first thing you think of. We're helping people who are homeless. It's either a shelter or a warming station, or both.
It's a pathway to getting out, to success.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just need that bridge. What else do you have to share with our listeners, and how can people help? Let's be bold. And what is the call to action? What do you guys need, and how can our listeners serve you?
So on the student side of things, it's if you're a business, and it's throughout Gwinnett, that's the beauty of it. It's really, if students can drive there, we go 16 and up, really juniors and seniors. But if you're looking to make an impact, it's in the name, hire a student. We're getting towards the end here for 2025, but we're constantly having conversations with people around, hey, how can we partner to serve these students through Summer of Impact in our different programs? So that's the Students 46 side of things. I think with the Lawrenceville Response Center, the biggest thing is the First Housing Center. Would love to talk to you and have that conversation around. We're looking for sponsors for the rooms.
Yeah.
It's about $2,000 for each room to furnish it, to get
Linens.
transportation, and all of that. We've got an Amazon wish list that's up, and that's going to be running until we get that filled. And we're working with churches too on that. Faith groups. How
can people find you on Amazon to get stuff off the wish list?
So the wish list is linked on our website. So if you go to click to give, it'll pull that up. You've got an opportunity to either use that or go and just give financially, whichever's preferred. Because the idea there too, I think for me, it's like, hey, I might not want to give financially directly. Yeah, and I've given financially in different places, but I think there's that tangible aspect where it's like, that just feels a little like, okay, I know what I gave. I bought the beds or something like
clean
that.
Sheets and
Exactly.
pillows. Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's like, this is going to matter for these guys. These are things that we all just have for the most part. We take it for granted to use the overused term, but these guys don't. They're living wherever they're at, and just taking, and so having those things just adds a little bit of dignity there.
The next generation of leadership, specifically for this organization.
So right now it's just me as far as who is on my team working with different people. So we'll see if someone comes along underneath. One-man team right now working with, the executive director and director for the Lawrenceville Response Center and all that. But I think within our team and within just the different leaders, it is more of the conversation around what is true impact. And I think one thing I've been trying to encourage within the faith leaders around the community, because that's how I even got connected to Impact in the first place, was my pastor, Ryan Johnson, at New City Church. We were attending up until very recently, and was there for 8 years. And he went out of his way to say, hey, Josiah, you should attend this prayer gathering. I don't even remember the specific details, but basically it was like, you should go here. This would be a great person to meet. And eventually met Jen. And years later, she came back and was like, hey, I want you on the board. Joined the board very briefly. And then right at that same time, I'm looking to move back into nonprofit work. And there you go. So it's a very quick summary of how a faith leader, and I say that because there's tons of churches in Lawrenceville, but we also have several mosques, one I've been to, and I think I have not yet made it to a
synagogue.
Thank you. Apparently there's some synagogues in Lawrenceville as well, and really other faith groups. And so we say that because that's still our community. We want to come together. Their role in being able to connect people that are passionate about work, about doing nonprofit work. That's what I want to continue to encourage, because I want to see more people like me step in, and it doesn't have to be you're passionate about what I'm passionate about, but if you're really passionate about serving, let's say veterans, just as an example, which I would love that. We have a VA, or VFW right in Lawrenceville, and that's a desperate need, or if you're really passionate about working with women and kids, that's a need. There's still so much need there. And so seeing more people doing that's why I want to encourage through my work, both outside of Impact 46 and within, if there's someone who comes underneath me, is trying to impart that, is like that passion to want to be involved, to not just do what's been, we do this because we've done it like that forever. No, we want to really see what matters, what's actually making a difference, and have a conversation around that.
I love that. I've always found through service, you find those people, much like you were serendipitously led, or through the Lord who led you to this role. If anybody out there listening is a young professional or just has children, I highly recommend just going out and serving with them, because you'd be surprised how people catch the spirit of service and how they can catch it at such an early age. So thank you for your efforts with Impact 46. For those listening who want to learn more or want to contribute or just want to talk to Josiah or anybody on the team, visit www.impact46.org. Josiah, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think that's about it. Amanda, thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun. Passion for nonprofit work as well. That's always good. Always good.
Social media, how can they find you guys on social?
So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn. Definitely want to follow us there. It's just all impact46.org, and we're posting there constantly.
They've got a really active and really attractive social media page. Okay, so kudos to your team.
Yeah, shout out to Anna Reese and Reese Media for making that happen.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. As you know, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you enjoy these shows. And I am Amanda Pierce, and this is Nonprofit Nation. Special thanks to our partners at Commercial Capital Limited for supporting the Nonprofit Nation podcast series. Commercial Capital Limited is your one-stop shop for commercial financing needs. Visit commercialcapitalltd.com to learn more about the types of programs and loans that they fund, types of properties they finance, and the documents needed to underwrite and process a loan in under 48 hours. Contact the experts at 770-908-1672 or email the team info@commercialcapitalltd.com. Visit amandapierch.com to learn more about purpose-driven podcasting.